So I have this interesting article about CES and about health gadgets that I'm going to drop in the chat here. This is from The Verge from this week, and let me drop this in here. I think it's interesting to talk about. And the title of this article here is "The Health Gadgets at CES Want to Body Shame You into Buying Them," which is an interesting kind of tilt to what you would normally see at this. And here, I'll read the key paragraph here, and then we can talk about it. Quote, some people do derive benefits from their fitness trackers and quantifying their health. But there's a dark side of this fad, too. Some doctors fear that technologies that make it easier to track all our steps and log all our calorie consumption fuel dangerous eating disorders. They may make it easier to obsess over every minute detail about a body's fitness routines. This year's gadgets promise to extend people's neuroses by quantifying all manner of our bodily aspects, posture, muscle strength, metabolism, and more. So it's an interesting point of view. What's your take on it there, Jerry?
Well, if you couldn't tell by the extended interjection there, I don't know that I buy that. It sounds like clickbait. It doesn't necessarily. And Sean in chat is saying tracker doesn't solve underlying lack of will. It's true. Tracking things is not the only answer. You do have to track things. You have to quantify things, because honestly, if you look at any of the health behaviors that we want to modify, think about it in terms of navigation. If you have a map and if you're going somewhere on that map, or you're going to use that map to figure out where you're going, what's the first thing you need to know? Anybody? Where you are. You have to know where you are. And in order to know where you are, you do have to quantify things. So that is one of the ways that these tracking gadgets are very important. I've also written a piece about that. That one actually showed up on the AAFP blog, the Fresh Perspectives blog, talking about all of these gadgets. Because last year at CES, this is why this year I'm not really following CES. Last year it was drones, wearables, Internet of Things, and cars. You know what it is this year? Drones, wearables, Internet of Things, and cars. It's the same stuff. And there are going to be some newer things that are innovative, but a lot of it is just shinier versions of the old stuff. And so from that standpoint, there's a bigger issue here when you come back to this tracking, quantified self, if you will, is the term that gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
And that bigger issue is, what do we do with it? And that's kind of what they're touching on here, but they're really hitting all of the negative points without really talking about any of the positives. The device isn't going to fix things. You're right, Sean. He said in the chat, never rely on a device as your golden ticket to better health. That's very true. If you weren't doing it before the device, you're not going to do it after the device. And that device may be a treadmill. It may be a gym membership. It may be a fitness tracker. It may be, your, mother-in-law. I don't care what the device is. There's nothing external to you that is going to get you where you need to go. And there's no one magic thing that's going to do it. There's no magic bullet. It's the combination of accounting. So measuring what's going in and what's going out, understanding how those things play into your natural body chemistry, and understanding body chemistry in general, and making sure that you have this Venn diagram. And Janet said fear and greed are big sales motivators, and that is very true. Don't get me wrong. When money gets involved, things kind of go away from science, and it's a bad correlation, negative correlation there. And so we have this idea that there is a be all end all for these gadgets, that they're going to magically change behaviors. People that were going to have problems before the gadget are going to have problems after the gadget. People that didn't have problems before the gadget probably aren't going to get.
But people, some people just need more data, and
that's true.
And it's usually the more kind of motivated people. And I definitely get, what Sean's saying is that these
Right.
stuff doesn't give you motivation, doesn't make you motivated. But for the people who are motivated and people who desire that data, some of this stuff would be beneficial to them.
Agreed. And that's actually that's what this article isn't saying, and that's the part that's missing. That's the part that's frustrating for me when you see articles like this, is that they say, well, all these bad things are going to happen, and there are doctors that say these bad things are going to happen. Well, one, which doctors where, and which doctors being the operative word there. Anybody can say anything they want to say. The issue there is more about, are there benefits? Are there detriments? What are the benefits? What are the detriments? And how do we keep our patients in the center of all of that? How do we let them get the good stuff and help them avoid the bad stuff? And that's the point here. And Sean made a really good point. This is kind of what we're getting at. It's not the wearable, it's the person wearing it. And that's exactly true. They're augmentation. They're not doing something for you. They're augmenting what you're already doing. If you were already tracking your steps and you had to write down every time you took a step, that's a pretty long way to go to figure out how many steps you're taking in a day. Mm-hmm. But if something is tracking your steps passively while you're walking around, you're going to be more likely to track them. So it does increase the ease of use. It does give you a bunch of data. It does pile a bunch of stuff on top of your head that you have to organize and understand and interpret. And let's go back to what Dennis is talking about. It would have patients bring that stuff in and say, okay, what does this mean? Here, let me vomit all of my data on you, and you tell me how I fix what's wrong. And in some cases, it's really good. If somebody is tracking their blood sugars on a regular basis, and they're tracking their weight on a semi-regular basis, and they're tracking their intake and their output and their exercise minutes and all those things on a regular basis, it gives us information that we can use to determine if there are deficits somewhere. If there is a problem somewhere in what they're doing, then yeah, great. That's helpful. But if it's just a bunch of data that doesn't tell us anything, and it's inconsistent and it doesn't agree with itself, if it's internally it's not internally consistent, it's a huge problem. And so really what the things that I would love to see out of CES, show me the magic bullet that's going to start giving us context with that data. That's the part that we don't get. Because I can tell you, I took 10,000 steps yesterday, but those may have been 10,000 steps sitting in my chair with my feet, propped up on the desk.